Math 7 friends, how are we today? Let's go ahead and get going. This is just a one-pager on the distributive property. So to distribute means to multiply or share the number on the outside with each term on the inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and underline this word with each term, or words, I guess, because you need to make sure that every single term inside the parentheses gets the same amount of 11. So for instance, with symbols, I'm going to take this letter A, and I'm going to distribute over here, or multiply, or share with the letter B. And whenever I'm doing that, I'm multiplying here. That's why I said that in the definition. Same thing, I'm taking A and I'm multiplying it over here with C. Again, whenever I'm using this like arc, I'm thinking multiplication. So therefore, this new expression is A times B. But keep in mind that whenever you have multiplication and you have the dot in between the two terms, that even better would be to just smush these two things together. So we got AB. Now, this addition symbol needs to be brought down here. So now I have plus, I've used that addition symbol. Now I'm distributing over here to C. When I take A times C, so A times C, but remember, whenever we are multiplying, especially to variables, you can go ahead and smush those two things together. So this would be AC. So therefore, whenever I'm distributing or multiplying the letter A, I would end up with this final answer of AB plus AC. Same thing with the other symbols. I see the number A on the outside. Whenever you have the number A on the outside, make sure that you're always distributing to the far left term first. So what I mean by that is I'm taking the letter A and I'm going to go all the way over here to this far left term. And again, whenever we're doing that little like rainbowy loop looking thing, you're going to go ahead and multiply. So I'm A times B. And remember, A times B, we're just going to go ahead and skip that step. We're going to write it as AB. And then again, we're going to bring down our plus sign right here. So I have plus, and then I take A times C, multiplying, so therefore AC. So there I end up with the exact same final answer as I did with that other symbols, because obviously I am distributing the same letter A. In using the commutative property, I know that when I switch those two things around, it doesn't change the value. Okay, the distributive property also works for subtraction. So looking at subtraction, same idea. The only difference now is instead of bringing down that plus sign, I'm going to go ahead and bring down a minus sign. So A times B, I get AB. And then I bring down my minus. I've used it. It's gone. Now I A times C for AC. Final answer. Same thing with symbols over here. I'm going to take my A. Remember, you have to distribute to the far left term first, like you're reading a book. So A times B. Again, we're going to bring down that minus sign. Now I take A times C. And I get to that final answer, the same thing as that one prior. Also, take a look at an example. I said, for example, 7 parentheses 4 plus 2 means I need to share or distribute or multiply the 7 to every number inside of the parentheses. So you can see here with this drawing, I'm going to take this 7, I share it with the 4, so that gives us this 7 times 4. Notice we brought down this plus sign, and then we're going to take the 7 times the 2, which is what I get here. Also, what I've underlined with the like teal color and the pink color, obviously those two things can be simplified. So you would actually continue working this one out of 7 times 4, and then taking 7 times 2, and then adding those two numbers together. But we're going to go ahead and practice that down below. So let's go ahead and wait to simplify expressions using the distributive property. So here's our first example. Number 1, I'm going to take the number 3, and I'm going to distribute to both the terms. So again, I'm going to start right here. So therefore, I'm going to take 3 times negative 7. So you can write this out. You can also write it out as 3 times negative 7. Or if you want to just take 3 times 7 and do that multiplication in your head, that's totally fine. So 3 times 7 gives you 21. But again, don't lose this negative. So because it is negative, a negative times a positive is very much negative. Go ahead and bring down your plus sign. So I've used that plus sign, so now I'm on to the 2. I'm going to take 3 times 2. So when I take 3 times 2, again, you can write it out here, or you can write it out like this, or you don't have to write that out at all. If we already know 3 times 2, which hopefully we all do by this point in time, I am going to bring that down. Then my final answer, I'm just going to add these two things together. They're different signs. You are going to subtract them, keep the larger, or you can think the scoreboard, whatever makes the most sense to you. My final answer here is going to be negative 15. Negative 15 for example 1. Now, as I'm moving over to example 2, I want you to draw a sun by example 2. A nice, lovely sun that is brightly shining. Draw a sun near number 2 if you are listening to these notes. This is your listening clue for the day. Now, for number 2, I'm going to take negative 6 times 8. Negative 6 times 8 gives us negative 48. Now, take a look right here at the subtraction symbol I'm going to bring down. Then I'm going to take negative 6 times 5. Negative 6 times 5 gives us negative 30. Negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. Now we can see it's minus and negative right next to each other, which we know by now makes a big fat plus. So then when I add those two things together, it's really me subtracting, because 48 is negative, 30 is positive. So when I subtract those two things out, my final answer, I get negative 18. Box in that answer. Hopefully we all heard that listening clue before we got started on number 2. If not, go ahead and go back, rewatch, listen to that listening clue. Love them. Okay, now the next one. Notice that I do see a multiplication symbol right here. Sometimes you may see it as a parenthesis. It kind of just depends, but I'm going to go ahead and take this number that's outside of the parentheses and distribute it, going all the way to that far left number first. So the far left number, I'm going to take negative 4 times 5, and I get negative 20. And then I'm going to bring down my minus sign, so I've used it. You're not going to use it again. Then I'm going to take negative 4 times 6 to get negative 24. And then the next step is with the minus and negative right next to each other, I make a big fat plus. These are different signs, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract them. My final answer here, we are going to get the number 4. Alrighty, so now we're going to practice this a couple times, but instead of doing all 3 of these as you tries, you're going to do this first one, we're going to do it together, because you need to solve out using the distributive property, which is what we just have done during the last couple minutes of notes, and then we're also going to solve out the order of ops. Both of these answers should end up being the exact same thing, and I've went ahead and made that note right here, so if you want to go ahead and put big fat stars, both results should be the same. If you're listening to this, I want you to go ahead and underline the word same. If you're listening, go ahead and underline the word same. So now that's your second listening clue of the day. Number 4, we're going to do this together to make sure we understand what we're doing. The first thing, I would always rewrite this problem down here, plus 3. That way you know what you're working with. Okay, so we're going to take a negative 4, and I'm going to distribute. I want to see you showing me that arrow. Okay, that took all of 0.2 seconds for me to draw that arrow over, saying that I'm taking negative 4 times negative 8. When I take negative times a negative is a positive, 4 times 8 is 32. Then I'm going to bring down my plus sign right here, and then I'm going to distribute negative 4 over here to the positive 3. Negative 4 times positive 3 gives us negative 12. And then my final answer here, I'm just going to simplify it out. 32 plus a negative 12 is going to give us the final answer of 20. Go ahead and box in your answer. So that's with the distributive property. Now you are going to solve that exact same question, but only this time using the order of operations. So again, rewrite our problem. Negative 4 parentheses negative 8 plus 3. Using the order of operations, which we did at the beginning of the year, you're going to take negative 8 plus 3. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. Go ahead and bring everything else down. So I got negative 4 times negative 5. Negative times a negative is a positive. Final answer, 4 times 5 is 20. Notice, just like what we said, both of these answers end up being the exact same thing. All right, for these notes, the last 2, I want you to go ahead and pause, and I want you to work both the distributive property and order of operations for each one of these, and then go ahead and push play once you have your answers. Alrighty, so let's take a look at my answers. On number 5, the distributive property, I distributed the 10 to the negative 5 to get negative 50, and then the 10 to the 9 to get 90. Therefore, I get negative 50 plus 90 to get 40. Yes, I know what you're thinking. That order of ops is much quicker. I get that. However, this is just day 1 notes. So coming into day 2, we're actually going to add in some variables. So just kind of keep that in mind that yes, order of ops, I'm sure, is a little bit easier for some of us. You're either adding or subtracting in the parentheses and then just multiplying. However, we are starting to add in some variables. So for order of ops, negative 5 plus 9 is 4. Then times 10 to get the same answer again. And then taking a look at the last question, 6 times negative 11. Now make sure that you include that negative with the 11. So therefore I get negative 66. I brought down my minus sign, and then I take 6 times 2. So therefore I get 12. Then I have to add the opposite. Negative 66 plus negative 12 is a negative 78. And the last one, 6 times, and then when I add inside my parentheses negative 13, negative 13 times 6 is negative 78 for yet again the same answer. All right, hopefully you feel super confident with the distributive property because like I said, this is day 1. You're going to get a day 2 and a day 3 with word problems. So good luck on your problems.